And I'm telling the FIE now, and I hope this should be the first thing you start your video with. You brought to the head of the FIE a dictator that you are going all to regret.
The world of international fencing is full of intrigue and controversy. A couple of years ago, the esteemed former national coach of the USA, Yuri Gelman, described the sport's international governing body, the FIE, as the most corrupt federation in the world. Now, personally, I'm not sure if a small sport like fencing could ever really compete with the likes of football when it comes to corruption on a large scale. But I've been following the sport for quite some years now, and I talk with some people who are quite heavily involved in international fencing. And I think it's fair to say that there are some very questionable things going on in fencing right now. And I think there are some serious questions to be asked about the way the sport is run. I've already done some videos on these kind of subjects before, so I don't really want to rehash anything that I've already said. But when there are problems with an organization, I think it's important to look at who's at the head of the organization, who's in charge, who's making the big decisions. Currently in fencing, at least officially, that would be Abdelmoneim ElHusseiny, who is the interim president of the FIE. He was appointed to this position at the end of April after the surprising resignation of Emmanuel Katsiadakis. ElHusseiny is from Egypt. He had been the president of the Egyptian Fencing Federation for quite a while, but he's been involved in international fencing for many years. He's been sitting on the FIE executive committee for a while now, so he's not exactly an outsider in this. Now, pretty soon after he was appointed to this position, I received a message from someone who really wanted to tell me a story about their experience dealing with Abdelmoneim ElHusseiny. His name is Mahmoud Samir ElBakry, and it turns out that these two have quite a history.
Okay, my name is Mahmoud Samir ElBakry, and now I'm living in the United States, like coaching and reffing in the United States. I used to be a national team member for more than 15 years. I'm 10 years or 10 times African champion and 10 times Arab champion. I participated in 2 Olympic Games, and I was a ref in Egypt for a long time. And also I was an international referee until like a couple of years ago, when the problem started and ElHusseiny suspended me and revoked my license, or I'm no more able to ref internationally.
Welcome to the 2021 Junior and Cadet Fencing World Championships live from Cairo, Egypt.
Everything started in 2021 when in the World Championship in Egypt, the Junior and Cadet. There are 2 names that I want you to highlight in this video, which is number 1, Mahmoud ElBakry, who has the same last name, but he's not, I mean, we are not a family, but he's like a family because we used to fence together. Mahmoud ElBakry is one of the best referees in the world, and he stopped reffing because of the same reason. And Gamil El-Ziftawi, who was a member in the committee in the international in the FIE.
Okay.
These 2 names in the World Championship, one of them was the representative of the FIE in Cairo, and Mahmoud ElBakry was the tournament manager.
The Cadet and Junior World Championships is a pretty huge event, so you need a lot of equipment to be able to run it.
They made a deal with Absolute because he was the sponsor of the Egyptian Federation, including this deal that they made, which was with the 4 million Egyptian pounds. There were 40 strips, aluminum strips. After the deal was done between the federation and the Absolute Fencing, Medhat and Gamil found out that the strips are made in Egypt under a license, because every FIE strip has to have a license number or homologation number. This number was for a company called Tima. This is an Egyptian company. The CEO of this company is the Husseini's friend.
So the federation was organizing these world championships. They want to buy pieces, the
Yes.
strips, the metal pieces,
Yes.
with a budget that comes from where?
From the Egyptian Ministry of Youth.
From the Egyptian
From
ministry.
the government. Yes.
Okay, the Egyptian government has this money
Yes.
to spend on.
And I have a document from the Egyptian ministry says that we're gonna provide you this amount of money, which was huge at this moment. Before we now with the dollar, the Egyptian pound is too much devaluated, but at this moment it was very high, like very very big amount of money. We're going to provide you this amount of money because this equipment is not made in Egypt. It's only made abroad.
Is this said in the document?
Yes, I have it. Yeah.
So this money was explicitly for
The
pieces
World
made
Championship for
outside
the
of Egypt.
equipment. Correct.
Okay,
What
and
did they
then
do? What did they do? They made the strips under the license of Tema, and then they put the logo of Absolute on it. I don't know, is it Absolute or Al Husseini? They decided to do this, or Absolute did it with this Tema company. I don't know, but as far as I know, that they are all friends. So Medhat and Gamil decided that they are not going to accept these 40 strips. And also there was a equipment committee that will accept this so that they say it's up to the specs that they are expecting. The three of them, they signed that it's not like compatible to what we ordered because it's made in Egypt, or because the quality of the strips are bad. Medhat said no, and Gamil did something because Gamil is a very very smart guy. He put in the World Championship, they make like a report on the equipment they are using. He put all the numbers of all the strips on this report or in this report.
so these are the identification
The
numbers.
identification is not absolute. The identification of the strips is not absolute.
So you
It
can
is
match this number to the manufacturer.
yes. So now my question is, did you know if these strips were made in Egypt? Knowing that the factory, not the license number, the factory that made these strips is the factory of the family of Moro Hamza. Moro Hamza is the friend of El Husseini, and their homes are like 200 meters away from each other in Cairo. So you decided, or I don't know, he says that he didn't know that it was made in Egypt. So if you don't know that these strips were made in Egypt, why did you accept them? Why did you fire and he suspended the equipment committee, and he suspended Medhat, and he suspended Gamil, and he was accusing them of making up all this because they were running against him in the elections.
I just want to make a quick point that whilst Mahmoud claims that Moro Hamza is a friend of ElHusseiny, I don't really have much evidence to support that claim. However, I do have a report that describes Hamza as a representative of the supplying company. I did also email ElHusseiny to ask for clarification over his relationship with Hamza and the Tema company, but so far I've had no response. After this fiasco, Mahmoud was very vocal about the whole story, particularly on Facebook. So this all happened, and Medhat refused the peace, and Gamil refused the peace.
Yes.
What was the aftermath of this?
He brought this committee from the FIE, and according to their report, he suspended Medhat, Gamil, and everybody else. He suspended 6 people. 3 of them is the equipment committee, Medhat and Gamil and me. Because in the beginning I was very supportive to El Husseini. like in the beginning, in his first term, I even went to coach the national team for a couple of competitions, including the Youth Olympic Games, because I was supporting him because I thought or I wanted him to be successful or to. But once this happened, everything like fell apart. Understand what I mean?
So you were all suspended from the Egyptian Fencing Federation, by the Egyptian
Yes,
Fencing Federation. Okay.
and because the problem is that like whenever you put something on the Facebook, this bothers him a lot. So he was trying to like suspend me from the US fencing, and he sent to the African Confederation to suspend me, and he sent to the Pan American to suspend me, and they sent me suspensions. At this moment, I sent to the FIE and I told them this man is abusing power because
So just to go back, he tried to get the USA Fencing where you are currently living and
yes,
coaching. He tried to get them to suspend you.
yes,
Did he succeed?
of course no, because we
Okay.
are in the US.
Yes, I thought. He
Yeah,
tried with the African Federation,
he did.
Confederation. Was there
Yes,
a success in attempts there?
yes, because this is what he does in Egypt. Whenever someone opposes his opinion, you're suspended. He suspends people same way like he breathes. You know?
Medat ElBakry was suspended
Yes,
by the Egyptian Federation. He was forced by Abdelmoneim to
of
stop
course.
refereeing.
Yes,
Okay.
because he Medhat sent a lot of, but because he suspended him first for 2 years and $100,000 to pay as a fine. Medhat didn't pay. Medhat didn't pay, and we all went to sue him, and we all won our cases against him in the court and in the appeal.
So it's probably worth doing just a quick summary. In 2021, Egypt was organising the Cadet and Junior World Championships. Medat ElBakry and Gamil El were part of the organising committee. The Egyptian government provided the funds to buy equipment, stipulating that it should be imported from abroad. When the pistes arrived, it was determined that they were made in Egypt. Gamil and Medat refused to accept the pistes, and as a result, they were suspended by ElHusseiny. Mahmoud ElBakry spoke out about this story online and was suspended also. The three of them pursued legal action against ElHusseiny and won. The Egyptian court ruled that Mahmoud is owed 5 million Egyptian pounds as compensation for the loss of income as a result of his wrongful suspension. That comes out to about 100,000 US dollars. But that's not all. Mahmoud has more to say about ElHusseiny.
Do you know that his head coach or his foil coach is a lifetime suspended here in the US because child abuse cases?
So
Yeah.
we are talking about Hamza,
Yes,
Moro
Moro.
Hamza.
Yeah.
And he was Egyptian foil coach coaching in
He's
America.
still, he's still, and he was still in Vancouver.
So he was
Last weekend.
suspended. He was suspended
He is.
indefinitely. Is suspended indefinitely
Yes.
in
In
the
the
USA.
US. Yes.
Was he then? What was the order? Was he foil coach of Egypt at the time of this?
Of course.
And he still is now.
Yes.
So Moro Hamza, who Mahmoud claims is a friend of ElHusseiny, was first suspended by USA Fencing in 2014 for 5 years. In 2019, he was then suspended again. In 2021, a fencer filed a lawsuit against Hamza, accusing him of sexually assaulting her when she was a minor. The lawsuit was settled in December 2022. In 2023, Hamza was ruled permanently ineligible by the US Center for Safe Sport, which cited sexual misconduct involving minors as the reason for his ban. None of these suspensions in the USA seem to prevent Hamza from acting as Egyptian national foil coach under ElHusseini's presidency of the Egyptian Fencing Federation.
My question, because this case was investigated for a long time, but they took a final decision. They suspended him 5 and then 5 and then final. The last final decision was made in 23. So my question to ElHusseiny, if you have a child abuser coach, would you hire him for your two girls? Because he has two kids, women, girls. Would you hire him? Would you be, or because he's your friend, that's why you can hire him? If you have a child abuser and you know it, would you send him to the Olympics, or only because he's your friend? This is my question. And this is my question to the FIE. Would you trust someone who hires a child abuser to be the FIE president? Would you trust someone who banned, he's a dictator and he's discriminating against women, and he made a decision not to make women over 23 to represent Egypt? Would you trust him?
So, at the 2024 Olympics in Paris, Egyptian sabre fencer Nada Hafes made an upset to make the last 16. But the big story emerged when she announced that she competed whilst she was actually 7 months pregnant, a fact that she had kept secret out of fear that she would not be allowed to compete if people knew about this. Well, the story went pretty viral, and Hafez was largely celebrated as a champion of women and mothers in sport. But months later, it was reported that Hafez could face a ban from representing Egypt due to her age. What started out as a positive story about Egyptian women in fencing turned into a debate over potential discrimination. To be honest, the details of this whole story aren't really clear to me. I've tried to reach out to get some answers, but I haven't had that much help. From what I understand, the debate isn't so much over selections, but the way funding is allocated. I hear that maybe the Egyptian men receive more funding than the women, but to be honest, I'm not really confident about the details of this. I actually reached out to ElHusseiny for comment on all of these topics, but so far I haven't had any response. Now, there is a bit of an elephant in the room here, and that is the question of, is ElHusseiny actually really in charge? Because whilst he holds the position of interim president, the actual president of the FIE is still Alisher Usmanov, the Russian Uzbek billionaire who has been at the head of the organisation since 2008. Whilst he suspended his presidency in 2022 due to sanctions, he ran again and won the presidency once more in 2024, before again suspending himself immediately. By the way, if you look at the FIE statutes, other than in an annex that compiles the history of the management of the FIE, in the actual statutes section, there isn't really any mention of the words self-suspend or self-suspension or voluntary suspension. So yeah, it seems very unclear what this self-suspension actually means. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that Usmanov still has a lot of influence, given that he has pumped so much money into the sport over the years. So how much say does ElHusseiny actually have? I don't really know. But I think what is clear is that since ElHusseiny took over this role from Katsiadakis, we have seen a couple of big pro-Russian decisions go through from the FIE Executive Committee. Firstly, in June, teams of Russian fencers were allowed to compete as individual neutral athletes, which goes very clearly against the IOC guidelines, but also kind of against common sense. How can you have a team of individuals? It doesn't really make much sense to me. But anyway, then in July they removed the processes required for confirming the neutral status of Russian fencers, allowing armed forces athletes like Velikaya and Igorian to fence in the World Championships. Both Velikaya and Igorian have been active supporters of Vladimir Putin in his presidential campaigns, so yeah, it's kind of hard to see them as neutral. A big problem that we have in fencing is that there is very little journalistic scrutiny of the sport and the way it is run. It means that questionable things are often just swept under the carpet and people aren't really held to account. I try my best to shed light on these things when I can, but I'm not really a journalist, so I don't really know the best way to approach these things. This kind of video takes a lot of time and effort to talk to people, to research things, to check things, and then to edit the video. And I could also potentially be putting myself at risk if I ruffle the wrong feathers. So yeah, if you want to support me, then I'd really appreciate it if you were to take a look at the Patreon. It really helps me out quite a lot. But thanks for watching, and enjoy the World Championships coming up soon. Bye.